Greetings, fellow Viltrumites. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
And you guessed it, we're here talking the mid season finale of Invincible Season 2. Yeah, so that's right, folks. It has been quite the ride. Only 4 episodes, and still a lot has happened. And Jacob has finally gotten caught up on the whole series.
That I have.
Yeah, the whole main series of Invincible. Did you have time for the Adam Eve thing or no?
haven't watched the Adam Eve thing yet.
The band's caught up on the core series that is Invincible. Invincible in namesake. The man has seen it all. The man knows all, or at the very least, he knows all that we've seen all. And here we are to talk all about. It's been a while.
Yes. I am finally here, ready to discuss Invincible.
So I guess the first question, Jacob, what do you think of Invincible? Period.
I really like it. It's a very good. It's very like I say, it's very well animated. Like, yeah, it has very good action. It's definitely fills the violence quota, and then some. Like in terms of graphics, yeah, in terms of like how graphic it is, yeah, it definitely fills that quota quite well. So, somehow it manages to be both satisfying to watch and also horrifying to watch at the same time.
And yet still more uplifting than The Boys.
Yes, exactly. Honestly, I find this show better to watch than The Boys.
Yeah.
So and that's just me, based on the overall tone of the show. You know what I mean?
How far did you get in The Boys anyway?
Not very far.
Okay.
But so overall, I enjoyed the series. I mean, I don't know if I rank it as one of my favorite superhero shows of all time, but I'm definitely impressed with it. I like what I've seen. I definitely wouldn't be, I definitely wouldn't be here if I didn't like it.
Right.
So I was like, I had to say, like the first episode, especially the ending scene, kind of like sinked its teeth into me, especially when Omni-Man was going ham on the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah.
I mean that's putting it mildly, going ham on them.
Yeah, you went John Ham on them.
I guess so.
Yeah.
John Hamm would make a good live action Omni-Man if they couldn't get J.K. Simmons.
You did realize did you know John Hamm is in the first season of Invincible?
Actually, I didn't.
Yeah, there's the framing device with the guard at the White House. That's John Hamm. The first voice you hear in the show is actually John Hamm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they pay off the whole thing with his son unearthing the Immortal.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I guess like his stepson.
Yes, yeah, of course, yes, the stepson. Anywho,
I mean, I'm a sucker for like the family dynamic and this kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed the dynamic that evolved between Omni-Man and Mark, especially as the series went on.
Well, that's the other thing with the John. That's the whole reason for the John Hamm thing too. By the way, is just the fact that we're seeing like a really healthy, the most well-adjusted, healthy kind of father-son or like father's, stepfather's stepson kind of dynamic you could possibly have, juxtaposed to a very complicated father-son relationship. Ultimately,
yes, very much so.
Yeah. So speaking of which,
I'm not going to try not to be long-winded with my introduction on this, but overall, I really enjoyed the first season, and I think the second season is keeping the momentum fairly well.
Okay. So this episode, big mid-season finale. Where you explain what the heck Omni-Man's been up to since this that gobsmacking season 1 finale. So this has been a thing they've been building up to in this season, and I think rightfully so, because I was like, how do you top that? So I think we kind of ease back into the world, and we've been building up like the wake of Omni-Man's actions. And how it's affected Mark and Debbie and everyone. So the status quo at large. So it's very.
Speaking of Debbie, I kind of felt bad when the support group turned her away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I know you're grieving, but your husband killed her lover, so you're not allowed to have therapy. I mean, that's essentially.
Yeah,
I mean, that's essentially what happened.
I mean, she did. But here's the thing: she did break the rule of confidentiality, which I mean, that's why you don't break that
I
rule,
mean,
because if you know who and what happened, then it's gonna make things really difficult in the
I,
therapy.
I know, but she had to get it out in the open to actually open up the healing process.
No, it's true. It's no, you're right. And here's I still have to wonder though if that was a move by Olga to make her suffer, to actually help her. That's the thing. Like, do you
I
think she
mean,
sent her there knowing it would like be like
I mean,
retribution?
I mean, knowing Olga, I mean, we don't see much of her, but from what I know, from what I've seen of her, I don't think she would intentionally cause Debbie suffering.
Well, I'm not saying like she's evil though, but I mean it is a bit of like like we all incurred a loss and everything in the end. There's a lot of people are a lot not the fan base, right? I'm saying in the show people would lob blame at Debbie, as we saw with the support group. So
Kind of falls under victim blaming there.
oh, absolutely. In that case, literally, yes. you know,
Yeah, I mean, she's a much of a. She's. I mean, sure, she wasn't physically her, but she's as much of an emotional victim as anyone.
well, yeah.
I mean,
Of course, and now you finally see that Sandro, she went places after all, Jacob.
yeah, I see, Dragon. that whole thing you were talking about
Yep.
during our Phineas and Ferb stuff makes
I'm
sense.
between like this and killing Eve and everything. Sandro, she's going places, kids.
Yep.
There were some rough years after Phineas and Ferb, but she found her way.
Was she still in? I think I don't know if she was still in Grey's Anatomy at that point.
Wait, was she on Grey's Anatomy?
I think she was. Yeah.
Lots of things. I know she led her big. She was on Desperate Housewives. That was like a big thing for her. That was like the show she had for a while. But anyway, I think you're right, but I'm just
I mean,
struggling.
I don't. I mean, I never really watched Grey's Anatomy. So
You know who did watch Grey's Anatomy?
who did?
Bill Clinton. He loves Grey's Anatomy.
Huh. That's
Not kidding. He really likes Grey's Anatomy.
all right. That's nice. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, let's continue with what you were saying before I interrupted with the whole point on Debbie.
Right. But yeah, we've seen kind of the wake of Nolan's actions with everyone, and poor Debbie as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's something that you want to build up to. The Omni Man again. There was a lot of speculation as to like when we would bring him in. Like, would it be like the post credit scene of this episode, or would it be like we come back from the break? Because at some point he has to come back in there. Would it be as ambitious to be at the very end of the season? How do we do like a whole almost like a whole like a Daredevil season 3 kind of build up of our bad guy uniting with kind of our lead character again? But yeah, we as we learned at the end of last episode, like no, we're doing this a lot earlier, and it was warranted.
Yeah. Technically, we see him in the end of the previous episode.
That's the thing.
Wait,
Yeah.
technically, this shot was reused from the previous episode too.
Now you're probably wondering why I used. I don't know if you actually did wonder this at all. Yeah, if you're curious why I used this image in particular, there's actually a story behind it.
I actually took a screen grab. The image you sent me was way too blurry.
Well, I know. I'm glad you did that, Jacob. I'm just saying in general why we used essentially this shot though.
I know. I'm just saying. I was just messing around anyway.
Yeah. Yes, apparently a lot of I want to look back and I want to see for the other. I know at least two episode titles from this season are very direct comic pull lines. And to be fair, I mean I think they are echoed or if not directly quoted in the episodes themselves. But it's interesting though. Like there's the big moment like this shot of him extending his hand saying it's been a while. That is from the comic, so that's why that I wanted to go with this shot. So
if I remember correctly, pretty much every episode of season 1 was named after a quote from the episode. But that hasn't carried through over to this season.
Well, I mean that's the thing. I mean, at least two out of the 4 might be.
Episode 2 definitely was never spoken in the actual episode.
Okay, then you know what? Scratch what I said. Then I think you're right. This one feels like probably a special one. They did make an exception for. Then
I mean, no one in the episode ever said in about 6 hours I lose my virginity to a fish.
Right. That line is directly from the comic, but you're right. So,
okay, so it might be taking quotes from the comic then for the episodes.
It is possible, and I guess depending on how you look at it, we could have probably been doing that the whole time, and just like that's an example of us taking a left turn from the comic.
I guess so. And unlike you, I haven't actually read the comic.
Oh, I know I keep saying I don't want to just like, but it's
I
just
know,
kind of it keeps coming up the whole yeah.
I know you said you've only read it once, and it's basically just to skim through essentially.
Well, I mean, it's more like a singular binge. Like, it's not like a reread or anything. Just like you read it once, and then it's like I'm never gonna go back to it again because this show's gonna take forever to get made. So I'll be able to go into it kind of fresh.
Now the question is, once the show's actually finished, will you go back and reread the comic?
Oh, totally, yeah,
All right, that's fair.
yeah. Well, then again, by that point, I might be more blown away by the show, so I might just rewatch the show. You don't have to see how it goes.
Well, you could read it concurrently to see how it changes.
Oh, of course.
Like, I mean, there you go.
All right, okay. All that said, let's dive into the episode. Let's talk episode 4.
Again, of course, it's nice to hear J.K. Simmons again.
Yeah, and again, just it's really good when we can give J.K. Simmons not just like, hey, it's J.K. Simmons having a good time in animation, just giving J.K. Simmons a real meaty role to do something with. Because this feels like a top tier, honestly, not even just like animation. I think live action animation combined. This is like a top tier J.K. Simmons performance. What he did with Nolan Grayson, it's fabulous.
Exactly. I mean, I like he was absolutely perfect casting.
Mm-hmm.
Like so good that they even kept him for the Mortal Kombat appearance.
Oh, of course. I mean, how could they not? I mean, it's
Well, I can tell you how they didn't, Dragon. They didn't bring Homelander over.
Wait, really? They didn't? It's not Anthony Starr?
I don't believe so.
That's just ridiculous to me. Like, how can he? Like, he's so.
I saw an article saying that Anthony Starr is not involved in Mortal Kombat 1.
See, that's ridiculous.
It's like so that's technically how Dragon.
All right.
So it's like, but yeah, they did bring over J.K. Simmons. So, I mean, maybe it could be like a whole voice acting thing or something like that. I'm not sure, but
maybe.
But either way, like, so the funny thing is, I was actually watching a compilation of his stuff in Mortal Kombat 1, and that's where I actually first heard the name of Angstrom Levy. Because he mentioned it when he was fighting a duplicate when Omni-Man was fighting a duplicate of himself. He's like, does the name Angstrom Levy sound familiar to you? It's like, so they're pulling quite a bit from this. All right.
Right.
Moving on.
Okay, so Omni-Man, he's we check in with literally the moment right after like the big definitive moment of the Invincible story, which is what will you think, Mark? What will you have in 500 years?
I'll have you, Dad.
I still have you, and there's that cuts him to his core, realizes the horror of what he's done, and he leaves the planet.
He's like, oh my god, I'm killing my own son.
Yep. He basically he violates the imperative of Viltrum. He abandons the mission, which you don't do.
I mean, especially with the flashback at the baseball game, it like basically shows that like it shows that all of that if there's one thing he loves more than his mission and his planet, ultimately it's his son.
And again, that's the brilliant hat trick of this show. I mean that's it right there. Just that scene is like a testament to just flawless storytelling to me, and that gets me jazzed out of my mind every time I could just watch that sequence all day long. Just him this horrific display of violence, that wonderful little flashback, and then like the big payoff with the killer lines, like the effing credits line, practically. Like that's the.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff myself.
Yeah. Anyway, so he flew off the planet. We had like the really cool tear shot, and that's
course,
it. So,
and of course, the blood burning off of his suit as he exited the atmosphere.
Really cool detail when you look back on the first season of Invincible. Omni-Man, after he kills the Guardians of the Globe, that was the old costume. The other costume that he puts on, you'll notice, is a lighter red, and that's intentional. So when the blood spatter happens, you're going to be able to see it a lot more viscerally than you would on the more brighter red costume from the opening.
I didn't actually notice that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of interesting.
Another thing that was pretty funny about the whole thing was like how they incorporated the name Invincible, the title card, into all this.
Yes,
And now the first episode, all the characters unnaturally pause before the word invincible.
in season two, that goes a little out the window. At least the season premiere kind of went out the window in a really cool way.
Yeah, it's like when Angstrom leaves, he's like, "I will not rest until I've killed Invincible."
Yeah,
And it's like there it is.
yeah. Anyway, so we check in with Omni-Man. He's done some soul searching in space. Now, a lot of interpretations to Omni-Man. I like that we don't really. A lot of it's a lot
Yep.
of it's up to the viewer. A lot of it's like ambiguous.
The opening scene was great.
Yeah,
With the scene where he's floating through space with the song, like he's like, "What do I do?"
but you'll notice kind of parallels Mark at the top of this season. He's reeling from his father's actions, and now the father's reeling his own actions with kind of a sad song.
Yep. And like if you notice, like Omni Man was even probably about to kill himself.
Yeah, I mean, well, how exactly was he going to kill himself, as you say, Jacob?
Basically, fly into a collapsing planet or collapsing star.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So, anyway,
Right,
so
of all things, that probably would be the only thing that'd be able to kill him.
true. So,
Probably outside of the threat we see later in this episode.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, if you look back on it, look at the first episode of the first season, at the big Guardians of the Globe fight. He was pushed to his limits. So the idea is you have just one true blue Viltrumite, versus the greatest superpowers of that planet, and the idea is like they had no chance. But let me put it this way: I shouldn't say they had no chance. I should say they had a chance, but it was a fleeting chance, as we saw, where these guys all their forces and their might put together. Had they known this guy was going to turn on them, they might have had actually a chance at beating him. But the surprise factor and the fact that this guy just his resolve and everything, and he had no compunction about killing this. It was they were doomed, but they did again get him to pass out though. But again, at the cost of their own lives. So it's saying something. So
Yeah,
he it takes on the man, much like Invincible. Again, they are very durable, almost nigh indestructible, but they can be taken. There's going to be a lot of blood. And it's the idea is the Viltrumites are kind of a combination of Kryptonians and Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z.
yeah,
So there's a lot of Saiyan methodology in Viltrum, especially the whole planet broker thing. Frieza put upon the Saiyans and everything.
and the whole like the Saiyans weren't exactly conquerors; they were more like battle-hardened warriors.
Well, true, but they were kind of turned into like planet brokers, though. So they kind of conquered, but for Frieza. So that was sort of what
instead,
they were.
instead of for themselves.
Yeah. Anyway,
And one of them had kids with humans too.
So as I'm saying, there's a lot of parallels there for sure.
Intentional or not, who knows?
I don't know. Kirkman pulls from a lot of sources, man. I like to think that's. I mean, I think it's got to be intentional.
I mean, most likely. I mean, obviously Superman, but
hmm Okay. So here's the read I have on Nolan here is that he's less regretful over killing people and more about losing his family because of his actions, and and Mark has inspired. He's not fully there being like, I'm going to do this for the good of being a hero and everything, but I think his son's words have echoed in his mind. He's made him reflect on life as he's been floating in space, and him. I think he's getting to a place of being genuinely heroic, or at the very least, the way it plays in this episode, he's exploring what that might feel like. Like I've been putting on this facade of like saving people and everything for the good of the plan. I was just doing it basically for the long con of the mission to get them all soft and helpless for when I take them over. But he's kind of seeing like what that kind of actually feels like, like per his son's influence. So he meets the Thraxtons, and this leads to a change.
yeah. He saves them from the collapsing star.
Yep. And he kind of has a second chance here. He's got a second lease on life here, and of course the big again. I think the big twist is like it's like Viltrum's. It's interesting that he saves these Thraxtons, and overall, like again, because they have an accelerated timetable, I'm sure helped this fact. But it's the fact that they made him emperor, out of kindness of actually saving them, out of gratitude, and like, hey, this guy's actually a hero. You can rule us, man. It is through Viltrum not like killing everyone mindlessly and doing all this is like, hey, we'll make you emperors. I like that. That's kind of an interesting kind of twist on like what he's been told all his life, which I think may also kind of factors into like maybe I should try this.
Yeah, he definitely seemed to have mellowed out a bit.
Yeah. Also, I mean, J.K. Simmons' performance. I mean, in this season compared to last season, we get a bit of it, bit of like the traditional Omni Man later in the episode when all the bad stuff happens. But he's he's very soft spoken. He's very much he has absolutely mellowed out, Jacob. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of which, father son reunited. We have the big moment where you're thinking, oh boy, fight might break out, but he hugs his father. Big moment. A lot of daddy issues going on there.
Daddy issues, yes.
Yeah, Spielberg's got like a big foam finger saying, "Yeah, Kirkman, daddy issues."
Yes.
He has like the big foam finger like pointed at his eye, like he's like, it's like, "Yeah, give me a tissue for these daddy issues."
Save the issue for your tissue.
Yep, got an issue? Here's a tissue. Anyway, so
Anyway.
deep so my read on the father and son are reunited. I think deep down, I love Stephen Young's performance here. I think that deep down, Mark hopes that his father would return to Earth. He'd face the music, and I mean, one, it would be a long road to like repairing the damage, but also like the reputation of everything. Because right now he's been living a lot of like, I'm the man was this terrible guy, and he did like you're I'm the man's son. He's really living in the shadow of that as a superhero and just in general and everything. So I feel like my dad screwed up. He faced the music, and it's not still doesn't improve things, but at least he's playing ball.
It's kind of interesting how a lot of people blame Mark for what Omni Man did.
Yeah, well, they're not really blaming him. They're likening him to his like he's gonna happen. It's the same exact thing's gonna happen with him, and like there's a lot of like we should take care of him before he takes care of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, part of me, my read on this in the rewatch is that I think to some degree there might be some Viltrumite in Mark here more than he liked to admit that he can on some level forgive his father for the atrocities for his needs, which is like he wants his father back in his life because he did forge such a really deep connection with his father and he was so betrayed by him, and he wants to repair that even though every instinct in his body, as we see, just wants to say "f you" and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's saying he want a part of him, and this is the thing though, Dave. Circling back to what we were talking about, he wants to forgive him and accept him because of what his father said. The whole "what will you have in 500 years?" Because that's the inalienable truth about these two is that because of who they are, it's like their family. It's an unprecedented thing where he has like a half Viltrum child, which means he will endure, and no other Viltrumite has had like a special dynamic like that, where they have an offspring that's really like that close to them that they could stick around for a while, and then you'd have family versus just being like a soldier in a cause of preserving the lifestyle, like basically conquering planets from all across the stars. It's like in 500 years, you're my father and I'm your son. Like we should be in each other's lives.
Yeah.
I still gotta wonder if Kirkman has a healthy relationship with his father or not, because there's a lot of that throughout the show between Eve and her father and Mark and his.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how Eve's father comes across as more cartoonish than all the other dads in this show.
Oddly, yes. All right, so big thing too is that Omni Man he's not saying I'm sorry, and we call that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he made a mistake. He calls it a mistake.
You held my head in front of a train, which was used as a battering ram to kill people. That was a mistake, Mark.
Yes.
Oh god. Anyway, let's see. So Nolan, I really do like Nolan's approach here because he has deceived Mark, but he didn't lie in that a danger is going to befall these people. But again, obviously, he didn't say, "Hey, I'm the man's on the planet." I don't know if he would have shown up as willy nilly as he did. So he is very his approach here and like, hey, Mark, you can't just fly home. You're bad at directions, and you're in space. It'll take you a long time. You need a spaceship, which I'll give you regardless here. But you really, so, yeah, you should really help me save the Thraxans here. I don't care about helping you and or helping these people. So we both know that's not true because he knows he cares about people.
Yeah.
The whole reason he came there.
Yep. And deep down, we know Omni Man does too.
Yeah.
And I mean, like even in this episode, even later, he's like, why do I care about these things?
Yeah, I love that moment because that's when the original that's what kind of Omni Man like at his core from the first season really comes out there. And but again, it's from this play. Only J.K. Simmons can do this, man. I love this. It's flawless. Where such a great kind of like complexity of emotions here, where he grabs Mark. He just sees all these dead Thraxans here, but now he's kind of seeing the error in his ways, but he doesn't know how to feel about it. Like, why do I feel like this? You know, it's like they were weak, and it's interesting. He's traded down from, he's going to trade down from humans to a degree. They're literally bugs and ants, practically. You know, in terms of how he's seeing them.
Yep.
Yeah, guys. Tiki says in the comments, "Why do I care about these things?" Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, just that moment of him genuinely asking, and it's just the frustration there, and like tears in his eyes of like, I hear these people, and this Mark saying like, no, this is how you should have felt on Earth. There's definitely some guilt there, like there's a regret of like I should have had my eyes open to this long ago. My whole life could have been preserved for all he knows. I could have come to this realization a lot sooner. But also, he's forged the connection to these people, to this alien race,
Yeah.
and now they're all gone. He's also seeing that he's been the thing he's pledged his whole allegiance to his whole life, this whole identity is just is like a monster. It's an atrocity which he never saw in this light until his son woke him up for it.
Basically, he's coming to the realization that the thing he's been preparing for his whole life, is destroying his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like he love you, like he. I think he's like more doing it out of fear because like he feels like he has to do it rather than like he wants to do it. Is that that's my read on it anyway?
I mean that's fair. I do feel he did buy into the cause, but he never saw it from the other side. That's how I think he was very much kind of brainwashed by this is what we've done. It's worked for us, and you got to remember the way they train. We kind of get a taste of it this episode. The way they train them on Viltrum is like again, it's very much like only the strong survive. It's like a natural selection sort of thing where you're gonna beat the other guy. It's trial by combat everywhere you turn. So that's how they value like political power and everything.
It's Darwinism to the extreme.
Yeah, we're fighting people to the death practically, and only the strong ones are going to survive. And that's how they look at the children too. So it's really yeah,
basically calling the weak.
Yeah,
which the show doesn't shy away how screwed up it is.
So let's talk about the big reveal. Speaking of procreation, let's talk about the brother.
Yep, Mark's younger brother.
His younger half brother.
Yep.
So yeah, this is from the comic. This much I can tell you because as you can imagine, this character is going to come back, and he will be. I imagine he'll. I imagine he'll probably have a big role unless something catastrophically different happens. I think he'll have a big role in season 3, but who knows? Given the accelerated lifespan thing, he could be in action in the back half. But let's just say there's stories to tell with this kid, and we also meet Nolan's. I believe he's remarried. I don't know if it's just like a dating thing or if he's. I think he's points he's mated, he's procreated, he has a new girlfriend and or new wife, Andressa.
Yep, she's nice.
I'm sure Tiki is going to appreciate this. Andressa, played by a familiar actress in our circles, played by Ray Seahorn. Kim Wexler plays Andressa.
Huh, nice.
Yeah, she does a great job too, because she has that really great scene. I didn't knowingly try to replace your mother. Mark knows that. It's really nice, and she kind of gives voice to the whole expanded lifespan thing. I wonder if this episode, this moment, there's a moment from the comic that will most likely be when we come back in like episode 5, where it's a scene they I think intentionally they kind of left out of this episode, just given they wanted to end on the cliffhanger of essentially, as you can probably guess, because of the lifespan thing, she does not have long. So it'll probably get to a point where Mark's gonna have to take that kid with him, and he's gonna have to essentially raise that kid. So he's yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how that works out, and it is kind of interesting when Omni Man explains the whole thing with like it's now it, I can't go back to Earth, that whole
I
scene.
can never go back to Earth.
Yeah,
You have that, and you have he can never go back to Earth, and then we have this thing where the threat is that the Viltrums they're going to find Nolan because they know about Mark, so they're definitely going to investigate that. And if between just finding Nolan, period, they will they're going to find his other progeny, and that progeny is going to get killed because apparently there's like a rule with the Viltrumites. You need to procreate someone who's genetically similar enough that they could actually be an asset to the Viltrum Empire.
like Mark.
Like Mark, exactly. Mark's half Viltrum. He has there's like this weird genetic kind of loophole with Mark where he while he's not a full blooded Viltrumite, he actually might have a thing where he can kind of get stronger as it goes on. But time's gonna have to tell that one.
I mean, Nolan even said that that even though he's half human, he is basically pure Viltrumite.
Exactly. So because of that, he is So there's it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so unfortunately, this kid is, as they see it, would be like a diseased half breed of some kind. We got to wipe it out, and of course, in getting to this kid, they're going to wipe out the entire planet.
Yeah, like he's blaming. Of course, he's blaming Nolan on that. It's like you're bringing them here.
Yeah, I mean, Mark is not wrong in anything that he's saying here. He did put this on him unfairly. He tricked him into coming there, and Nolan endangered these people's lives if he knew that in the first place. But again, Nolan's kind of processing some complex emotions here, and these people made him feel kind of good about life.
Like,
You know,
I mean, as much as Mark is correct, and he is absolutely correct, but he's not really seeing a lot of things from Nolan's perspective.
But also, it shows you how good a person Mark Grayson is, where he's going to and Nolan knows this. Mark he can't leave these people to die because he feels responsible, especially for cleaning up his father's mess here.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see. I guess this kind of jump around a bit here. Deke in the comments here says I got to give props to the writers and Sandro because Debbie continues to be one of the most compelling elements of this show. So yeah, Debbie again after the very sad thing happened to her in the last episode.
Yeah,
She,
where the support group basically stopped being it, and it basically became an unsupport group.
exactly the unsupportive group of
Yes.
unsupportive people.
Yep.
Yeah. So she goes to Nolan's grave, and well, his fake grave. She goes to his grave, and she's kind of like she's trying to get some closure, and she's like, no, I don't want to be connected with Cecil or anything, and nothing in this life is free. I don't want to be beholden to him. I don't want Mark to be beholden to him. So I'm moving out of the house. And probably out of town. I forget where exactly Debbie ends up, but I don't know if she's moving to a different house or if she's moving out of the city. I'm not sure.
No idea.
But yeah, I mean, we know she really shouldn't have thrown away those books. But
Well, maybe there are more copies around.
no. I mean, that sounds like something important might have been in those specific books, Jacob.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't have highlighted them otherwise.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I have to imagine. Otherwise, I mean, well, again, the idea, by the way, was really subtle in the background. That because I forgot about this, and I think this was established very briefly. Is that Nolan is like a writer in his day job, his cover story job. It's like his alter ego is like Nolan Grayson, the writer, and he put himself on the covers of the books and everything.
Like you think he's just like a sci-fi writer.
Yeah,
It's like I wonder how much of it is actually inspired by his travels through space.
I mean, I think it's very heavily inspired by his travels through space.
It's the man with the invincible gun or something like that. I think
Did it say Invisible Gun or Invincible Gun?
I think I might be completely botching the title completely, so don't quote me on
Here's the
anything.
thing. It's the thing. Now you had me second guessing because I thought it said Invisible Gun, but Invincible Gun would be better actually if it did say that.
I mean, it very well could be Invisible Gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds more sci-fi.
Yeah.
The funny thing, you know what the funny thing is? I heard like in the original season that he was a writer, but considering like how much he travels, I thought he wrote like travel books. Like he wrote like travel books and things like that.
No. That'd be hilarious though.
I mean, that's exactly what I thought. I mean, it would be easy for him, so I thought that's what he wrote. I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't exactly explain it, so I was like, yeah, maybe. And they made it sound like he did, or maybe I heard something that made me think that he did.
Let's talk about one of the best scenes with Debbie in the episode, though. Let's talk about the scene with Art.
Art.
Yes, Mark Hamill's Stan Lee inspired character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, just he was already a lovely character we had in the first season. I like that we're using Art sparingly, but using him sparingly, we're using him at just the right moment. And it feels like if Stan Lee gave you a pep talk, just telling her exactly what she needed to hear and telling her, like, hey, the whole reason we survived was because you were there.
Yeah, I mean, not entirely, but
well, he's trying to say you the whole reason like Mark had a chance to get through him and everything.
Yeah,
The fact that he had any feelings towards humanity were because of what she did with Mark and everything.
Yeah, I know. Like you can say Mark Hamill definitely has experience with superheroes.
That he does. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I guess jumping around a bit before we go back to the Thraxton, I guess let's talk about the other stuff that's going on the Earth. So Eve, she's going up against Kill Cannon, he's essentially kind of like a recurring kind of low level bad guy here. He's been tasked with stealing one of robots. I think like a power source of like the old. I forget if do you remember? Was it called Teen Team? Was that what the original one was called?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think she's bunkering at the Teen Team hideout. I think that's where I think she's.
It's either Teen Team or Team Team.
Yeah, one of those.
Yes.
Anyway, so she's hunkering down there. He steals something, and they get into a fight. And we've been building this first half that Eve is. Well, that's the thing. See, Adam Eve potentially is like a very literally overpowered character. She can turn anything into anything, which is a really cool power. It's an exciting power to have, but it's interesting how in this season, just in general, we've been really looking at the limitations and more so the emotional, kind of ethical, almost Superman 4 levels of strife that she'd have to deal with, of like making these big choices like with the powers that she has, where she could do a lot of good, but also it's like a lot of like a domino effect for certain amounts of good that she does, where she sped up the construction, but she really should have stopped at the building. Instead, she built that park on that sinkhole, which is nice and thoughtful as it was. Apparently, there's some consequence there. Sometimes if things come easy, they might unravel quickly.
Yep. It's like,
but again, her father did not have to throw in her face the way that he did. That was a very small and petty move.
Kinda.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like, hey, people died because of you. Like that's really mean.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, he comes across as more cartoonish than the other dads do.
It does. I know. It just makes me think that Kirkman had a really bad father. It's whenever time I get that character, it makes me think, oh man, that guy feels very real. Even though, look, I know Jacob. While exaggerating, I'm sure there are bad parents out there like that guy, or at the very least.
Yeah, I know.
Like that guy. What fascinates me about Eve's father is that you can see. I love the moments of humanity with that guy where he does love his daughter, but he's very emasculated by her powers, like tremendously so. It just irritates him to no end. He's very old J. Jonah Jameson. That's despite the fact we have a character in this show who looks almost identical to J. Jonah Jameson if you were buff.
And is voiced by J. Jonah Jameson.
Exactly. So I know while we have that, it's still just like Eve's father does feel very much like he's a blowhard. I mean, kind of a bigot towards superheroes, but still he does. every time he says something to her, he does regret it though, and you get a sense there is going to be a regret there. I mean, like we saw it, we primarily saw it in, I guess, in the first season, but primarily in the. Well, it's also there's a big moment within the Adam Eve special, which I know you haven't watched yet, but it's good. I'd recommend it as you know. Anyway,
All right.
yeah, as Tiki's kind of like hinting at too as well. And again, we get a lot more context with the parents, which also feeds in like the glimpses that we've seen in the first season. So, anywho, point being, Adam Eve, she fights this guy, and then civilians almost get killed. We don't know what happens to them. They might get killed. They might not be killed. I like to think they survived because of her actions to save them.
Yeah, me too.
The near drowning, but yeah, she's. It looks like she's powering down for a bit. She's, she's like, you know what? Maybe my blowhard father's right. Maybe I am relying on the powers too much. I mean, I should learn how to use them more responsibly, or at the very least, I should find some sort of like, I gotta just take a breather from it.
It's like she thought she was on top of the world. Her actions didn't have consequences for the most part when she went out on her own.
Speaking of consequences, Donald. Let's talk about old Donald, aka Bobby Hill grown up.
Ooh, something's going on with Donald.
Old Donny boy, yeah. So Donald, he basically has the Agent Coulson arc from Agents of Shield to some degree. He's he discovers that he died.
and he did not go to Miami.
Well, Tahiti.
Tahiti, right?
Yeah.
He did not go to Tahiti. I don't know where I got Miami.
I mean, I think it'd be funny if he went to Miami, but yes.
He did not. He did. Coulson did not go to Tahiti. I mean, Donald did not go to Tahiti.
No, he didn't.
It's a magical. Yes. It is a magical place, though.
Yes, it is.
If you guys know, if you know, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, so Donald here, I love the scene where he goes to the wreck of like the surveillance house across, and he finds the glasses.
Yeah, and then he actually sees the footage of what happened.
Yeah, and it's very
and he has to go through like above his clearance level to get it.
Yeah, which again, I predict, I really do think is going to happen. So I think Cecil will probably, I don't know how permanent it's going to be, but let's just say at least for a moment, we're probably going to see Cecil go against Mark for to kind of take him to the woodshed for leaving the planet. And especially when Mark brings back the news that he's going to bring back, I don't think Cecil's going to be happy. And regardless, if Cecil goes to the mat with Mark, I think Donald's going to help Debbie and Mark out.
That's entirely possible.
I think Donald's going to turn against Cecil for keeping this from him and everything, and that's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, we literally saw Omni-Man like reach into Donald's spine and crush it.
Yeah.
And then the house exploded.
Yeah, he's pretty dead, and most likely a robot, just given how we see the blade. He basically cuts into his skin, and he sees blood. He's initially relieved, but the blade has been dinged.
And it is kind of something. It is, or at least like some kind of organic endoskeleton or something, or like robotic endoskeleton, which somehow has Donald's memories. I mean, I don't think the Mahler twins helped with that, or maybe they did. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't imagine they did.
I mean, who knows? Cecil of all people wouldn't know what the Mahler twins were capable of, and considering their whole MO is basically memory modification.
True.
I mean, it's just a theory, and you would know better than I would since you've read the comic.
So, anyway, with the Maulers, speaking of them, so this is really a neat idea. So the Maulers, if their whole run through the first season, the way they do the cloning and everything, the regeneration is. It's basically share memories of a clone, and per the procedure, and they never know who the original is, which is like a running gag. But in this case, the remaining Mauler was like basically turned into Two-Face practically. He had like the whole half of his body melted. So now they have like a definitive way of knowing who the original is, which irritates the clone so much he poisons and kills the original, which is kind of big. Like, oh god, he killed the original.
Yeah, it's like it explains why, because they would start treating the other one basically like a servant.
Yeah.
And then it's just like but then it just leads to an endless cycle, and then you can be guaranteed that the new memories are going to come back with this one.
Yeah. Okay, so back
kind of an Ouroboros in a way.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way.
In a roundabout way.
Anyway,
Okay, so our big thread of the episode, the big crux of the episode here, we're on Thraxton, and three Viltrum. Basically, the
is it
Viltrumites are.
is it Thraxton or Thraxton?
I don't. I think I just assume Thraxton.
All right, I'll just go with what you said. Then.
That's I just kind of went that based on they're called the Thraxtons, so I imagine the planet's called Thraxton, but I believe it anyway.
I didn't hear the extra T, but I'll trust you.
It might be. Look, it might just be Thraxton. I'm just saying it wrong, but I mean it's possible. Just
All right, semantics aside.
okay. The point being, um, Viltrumites, they have very strict rules in procreation. They're going to come to the planet. They're going to basically Mark and Omni-Man need to team up, and this is going to be something he's a little uncomfortable with, but he's going to have to do it.
Hey, Mark finally learns like the true threat of the Viltrumites.
And this was a great turn.
Unlike his father, the Viltrumites will not hold back against him.
Speaking of which, that's the thing. So we have a great moment here where Mark's like, "How am I? I couldn't even beat you. How am I going to beat any of them? So I'll train you." So of course, the big subversion being like we'll have a little bit of time to train,
and then
nope.
and then immediately after he says that they come to the planet,
like that's a great like, oh boy, we are in trouble.
Yeah, it's like we are majorly screwed.
And this is a nice payoff too, because if I have it right, I recognize 2 out of the 3. I want to say the 3 Viltrumites from the Al and the Alien segment of last episode. These are the 3 same ones who have come back.
I think you're right.
Here's the thing. I didn't recognize the Phil Lamar Lucan. Lucan is the Phil Lamar Viltrumite. Also, you'll notice, Jacob, all the Viltrumite men have mustaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. I didn't pay attention to that.
It's a running gag, and I'll build it up to you a little bit here. Let's just say the Emperor of Viltrum. He has a very iconic mustache.
How iconic!
Well, his character is modeled after a famous man with a mustache, so he looks like that famous man.
What famous man?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I mean it's not going to spoil the actual character for me.
Freddie Mercury.
Ooh.
So that's what I'm saying. So the leader of Viltrum, he's supposed to look like he's supposed to look like Freddie Mercury. Again, if they're going to do that in the show, or not, I have to assume they're going to do that in the show, but in the comic, that's the gag. Like they all have mustaches, so leader of Viltrum, Freddie Mercury.
Interesting.
Anyway, yeah. So the point being, so we have Lucan, who's the Steve Harvey. So he's as Tiki is kind of joking. Here's the Steve Harvey looking Viltrum, Viltrumite. We have Vidor. I think it's Vidor. Vidor is like the main one that Nolan's fighting. That's Chris Demontopoulos, who is the voice of Mickey Mouse these days.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yep. And also Mo from the Three Stooges live action movie they did. Yeah.
Yep.
And Greg Griffin as Thula. Now, Thula and Vidor we definitely saw in that Al and the Alien one. I just can't remember if Lucan was there. But yeah, these 3 guys, nice through line for that. They've been looking for Nolan, per what Al and the Alien has reported back, thanks to our turncoat. And now they are here. So this is a nice connective tissue.
Who appears to be Thetis.
Yes.
Thetis appears. But why Thetis? We'll yet to find out.
Why Thetis? Is it because you have a beard? Why?
It's like I'm actually going to meet Thetis' voice actor, and let's see, approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 days.
The moral of the story in Invincible is never trust anyone with facial hair or mustaches in the Invincible universe.
I have a beard and a mustache.
Well, I think it's mostly the mustache. I think if you have the beard, you're probably safe, but you're duplicitous. You might be duplicitous, though.
I have a beard and mustache.
Well, I mean, come on, man. You have a beard. I mean, they basically have a full beard, so it's not really having a mustache. It's just you have a beard.
Okay.
Doesn't count.
So it's like if it's a mustache, evil.
Put it this way, you're shady, you're shady, but not evil.
All right, then.
There you go. If you had a mustache, you'd be evil, according to Robert Kirkman.
So if I shave my beard, I'm suddenly evil?
Yeah, that's essentially how it works.
I wonder how many of the cast and crew have mustaches.
That is a good question. It'd be funny if they all just for publicity they all grew mustaches. Just
Yeah.
I guess some actors grow out hair, grow out hair for their roles.
Yeah, like, why are you growing out your hair? This is a voice role. Getting into it.
Yeah, it's J.K. Simmons. Every time he does it, at least he should have a mustache.
It's like, yeah, isn't he bald?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I think he can still grow mustaches. I think I know.
I mean,
I know. J. Jonah Jameson had a fake mustache, but I'm just saying. It's possible.
It's like that's outrageous. Done. It's like we need you to grow. We need you to wear this fake mustache, JJ. Fake mustache, J.K. Simmons. Like, that's outrageous. Done. That's hilarious. All right, sorry, I just made my. I was just amusing myself. So let's move on.
Okay, so we have the big battle here. Lucan already very intimidating, big guy, full of Lamar, and he's literally holding Mark down with a finger, comparing him to the bug. It's like, oh, this is not good.
It's like yeah, it's like basically as I pointed out, it's basically Mark fully realizing the threat of the Viltrumites.
Yeah, and that his father really was playing softball with him, and
even during their fight in episode 8,
he kept trying to teach him stuff during that fight. That was the thing. He wasn't really even trying to kill him. He was just trying to well, look at what you're fighting for. They're all gonna die.
It was more like he was trying to teach Mark a lesson rather than outright kill him. But then he realized oh my god, I am killing him.
Yep.
It's like, and then this is what you get when the Viltrumites don't hold back. And you don't even really see them kill the Thraxtons.
I know that was a really good choice, by the way. Just we see the bloody aftermath.
And were there any Thraxton survivors? I wonder.
Well, I mean, the way Nolan talked about it, there might have been others on the planes. We know that his wife and kid were hiding, but it sounds like there were other people on the. There sounds like there was still hope to otherwise it all would have been lost. But a lot of people got killed. There might have been some survivors. I imagine there were probably some survivors. I don't think I don't think they scoured the whole entire planet and killed everyone by now. I think they just showed up. So they was probably killed the town full, the city full of people, or at least half of the city.
Who knows with the Viltrumites? And
Never know.
We saw what Omni-Man was able to do in episode 8 in a short amount of time.
Okay, so here's a big character moment we should discuss. So Omni-Man did give Invincible a big piece of advice here. He told him, look, fight to the death. Otherwise, we're all gonna die.
Mark was saying he doesn't want to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
But then Omni-Man is basically saying in this case you don't really have a choice.
Exactly. So apparently this is the key to unlocking some true strength in Mark, who again does get beaten up a lot. So if he fights like he wants to kill his opponent, he does stand a fighting chance against the Viltrumites. It unlocks kind of his potential, but it is diametrically opposed to who Mark is, which is not his father.
Yeah, that is true, but it's basically trying to prove that in some instances it's okay, maybe sometimes it is okay to off your enemies in this case.
I mean, if they're Viltrums, if they're Viltrumites, you probably want to fight to the death there because these guys actually are they're practically unkillable anyway. So you're gonna.
I mean, sure there might be some more morally gray implications there, but at that point it's just do you take this one life to save literally billions of lives?
On some level, it might be this. I don't think Cecil, for example, would begrudge Mark for killing Viltrumites. However,
it's just more like how Mark would personally feel about the whole thing.
Well, yes. However, if Mark, I think on his, the way Mark's seeing, I think the way maybe Cecil might see it as well. I'm saying mainly the way Mark would see is that if he kills a Viltrumite, it's a proponent of what the Viltrum culture is all about. He's killed another Viltrumite. He might get. It's kind of the slippery slope thing, only less just killing people in general. But if he kills the Viltrumites, he's becoming one. That's kind of his baptism by blood into the Empire.
Which is why Batman doesn't kill Joker.
Well, yeah, so I'm just saying this one's like more specific. If I killed any of these guys, like that's literally that's the graduation ceremony. Killing the one of these guys is like that's how that gives you the bloodlust.
Like you would just need to like kill the man in charge essentially,
Yeah,
and like whole like do you get right? Do you understand what I mean though? Right, with the
I
whole
mean,
like
yeah,
I mean it's just like you do have to draw a line somewhere with your no killing rule, and this shows like kind of like highlighting like the morality of it versus like the justification.
yeah, yeah. What I'm saying too is I think he knows like killing these guys might something might come from that. It's gonna be really bad, and especially if he let's say for example he killed all the Viltrumites, which I'm not there's really very far from that right now. Let's say if he did, then I think people would be really scared of him.
I mean, the first episode did highlight what an invincible with no qualms against killing is like,
Yeah, I mean, he paralyzed Eve, and like he's gonna put her in like a rest home or something. It's terrifying.
or at least in like hospice or something.
Well, he's gonna put her somewhere. He's gonna put her in a nice. He's at a nice place still, but then again, he did paralyze her, so I don't know if I really trust what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, like he literally snapped her neck,
Hmm.
and like and she was like, he's like, you didn't. So I'm sorry to do that, Mark. He's like, oh, I didn't kill her. I just paralyzed her.
Oh, that's what you're doing to those protesters.
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing I love about this, is like the somewhat dark humor involved in it.
Yeah. All right. So,
And just the fact that in that universe, it's like, can we get some deep? I missed lunch because of the riots in Bangkok.
Man gets so hangry in Invincible when you really think about it. He gets so hangry.
Yep.
Anyway, so point being, Invincible hesitates when he has Thula, and he like he basically he put up a good fight. He basically has her where he wants her, but he just can't make the kill shot, and that gets him stabbed. And then Omni Man swoops in. He saves the day, saves him. He basically I
On
would say kills her, but then again, looking at these Viltrumites, we like a guy's guts were spilling out, and then he was impaled, and yet alive and cripples Omni Man at least briefly. He breaks his spine.
yeah, Thula with her like basically razor sharp hair,
Mm-hmm.
or and like and the way she he pulls her hair into his arm, and
Mhm.
it like basically shatters her jaw.
Yeah.
It's like
I
it's like
mean, sadly, she might be alive though.
it's like there are a lot of those like oh my god moments in this show.
I mean, yes. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I was well, there was that, and I'm so that he was popping like here's the thing. He wasn't just like doing what he did to Red Rush when he was popping that one guy's head. You could see like the skull separate because these guys do not break as easy as the humans. So that guy is like
Yeah,
presumably alive, but just having terrible things done to his head.
yeah, I saw that. Like he crushed the guy's head, but you can like see like the like it like pulsating.
Exactly. Like the weird thing, you can see like the skull kind of separate. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's like that's almost worse than dying.
By the way, I want to highlight the animation yet again, where it's like, man, I love the animation on her hair weapon. It's so amazing. Like she has this long, like braided hair that she can wield around like one of those, the Japanese weapon with like the blade at the end. It's like it has the chain and the
I mean,
blade.
it's like a nunchuck, but
Well, not a nunchuck, but it's
I,
it's like you know what I mean. It's like the chain with the blade at the end.
hold on.
Well,
I
it's
mean, I know.
definitely not a nunchuck.
I said it's like a nunchuck.
Yeah,
It's a looks at things. It's called like a Kusarigama, if I googled it correctly.
that's. I mean, it sounds kind of right.
I
So I'm
mean,
kicking myself now because I've seen that thing a couple times. I just never
I'm
name.
looking at an image of it. Yeah, it kind of does look like how her hair works.
Okay, there you go. I'll take your word for it. Anyway,
I mean,
so
I'm not gonna like post a link or anything.
I know that. That's what I just said, Jake. Yeah. All right. So, point being, we cripple Omni Man at least temporarily. Spine's broken, and Invincible passes out. Yes.
And I know Omni Man obviously is not gonna die.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really gonna say anything, but you kind of paused. So
Well, I mean, Jay, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. He could, for all we know. I don't think he's going to be. They say he's going to be executed. I mean, I would like to think they're going to save him, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I read a bit about the comics, so I don't think he's going to die just yet, unless they do like a massive departure.
That's what I'm saying. Jay, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. They could do a massive departure with this because I don't see how he has any prayer of saving him, especially because he's already got enough problems on Earth right now. And here's the main reason I'm concerned about it is the fact that if they're going to execute a guy, why would they keep him alive for so long? I mean, you imagine they're going to be like an instant thing, and the Invincible's got a long ways to go. I don't know if he's going to like instantly mount a rescue. Plus, he's got to heal from a stab wound. I don't know if Omni-Man's got much of a chance here.
I mean, maybe the Viltrumites are holding a trial, like they're going to do like a court martial for Omni-Man.
Well, yeah, but they said execution. I think it's this pretty definitive trial. I don't think there's really anything to figure out there.
Maybe it's just more for show, like make an example of him.
Anyway,
you know what I mean? Like they're just doing it like this is what'll happen if you go against the Viltrumite way, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so they've captured Nolan, seemingly for execution or trial or what have you, and we learn from General Craig, wonderfully voiced by Clancy Brown. Do a dance for the Clans.
I was like, hey, Clancy's back.
Yeah, and
like I loved him as Damien Darkblood.
Oh yeah.
I hope it was basically just Hellboy. Basically like a detective version of Hellboy.
He's basically Hellboy crossed with Constantine.
Yes. I hope we see more of him because I loved him.
Well, that's the thing. They always you know what? Another potential turn. I think if Donald turns against Cecil, he's going to summon Damien Darkblood.
I mean, he is the one who sent him back in the first place.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's gonna bring him back.
Oh yeah.
I think that'll be his ace in the hole. That'll be a screw you to Cecil. Like I'm not only helping Mark Grayson. I'm bringing Damien Darkblood to do
it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so General Craig here, he basically lays out what I'd shorthand by saying he offers him the Raditz offer from Dragon Ball Z, which essentially is like, Raditz offered to Goku after he kidnapped Gohan, like kill 100 people and I'll give you your son back. Now,
and he's like kill a couple people to make an example, or we come and kill millions.
Which I love the way he's put that sadistic offer on the table there of just like, I understand you're hesitant about this, but hey, kill a few to rule the place, or we're gonna have to do it for you if we find out that they're not bowing down to us when we show up.
Yeah, but then Clancy Brown, he's always good. Like, am I ever gonna play the good guy? Technically, he kind of did with Damien.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love Damien Darkblood. I just love his design and the whole concept about him. And they didn't really explore him enough before they sent him back to hell. So
and we also got Rebels too with Clancy Brown, good guy.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And he came back for Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good. It always is nice to see Clancy Brown in this kind of stuff.
Okay, so Nolan, he says, remember the good things I did in my books. So the books seemingly might hold, I imagine, one of two things.
I do like the lines, like, remember the good things I did, like, as you mentioned. Like,
yeah. Now, I wonder if it's it could be one of two things. One, the books could just be, in general, read my books, and they'll detail my adventures, which might, either one, like it could probably detail where Viltrum would be adjacent to like the real, like a real star chart somewhere, like probably written in the books, or just like a key to helping defeat the Viltrum Empire is probably going to be in the books, or the other way. I'm saying if you just interpret the pages and what's written in them, it would be that, or there's like a secret, like those specific books that are on the corner, like the ones that he had in the house. There might be actual coordinates or something, like very unsubtly, just kind of like, hey, they're right there in the books.
That would be. Who knows?
So, in terms of speculation, you have to imagine logically what would happen next. So, either way, he's got to go back to Earth, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'd imagine what we're going to do is Mark is probably going to be, he's going to go back to the plane. He's going to have the baby brother in tow. And he's going to have a lot of splaining to do to Cecil.
It is Cecil, his mom,
So that's the thing. So
his girlfriend.
the main thing I think has to happen. This is just me not really knowing how this specific. Honestly, here's the thing. The whole offer of breaking the planet for us, that I don't know if that was in the comic or not, because that's what I'm saying with the whole fuzziness I did with my binge. It's like I don't know if that detail in particular was from there. So my logic on how this would go story wise, like, okay, Mark returns to the planet. If it were me, I would tell Cecil, man. I'd say, Cecil, the Viltrums are coming. We got to come up with a game plan, man. Like, tell Cecil everything. I know there's going to be some trust issues soon, but right now, there's like, who else is he going to turn to? You know, he can't. It's going to be really weird if he tries to keep all this secret and everything, but I don't know. Because if he keeps it secret, we're going to have like all these misunderstandings and everything. Or I think the more interesting tack to take is he tells Cecil, and this does, like, Cecil is going to help him, but he will also be, conspiring against him, or he will reveal that yes, we have we have this new experimental deterrent against the Viltrums that we've been developing based on your encounter with him, and then down the line he might use that against Mark. But they probably use this initially as a team up.
Yep, and we'll see how the whole thing with Donald fits into this whole thing.
And the big thing too is going to be Cecil's reactions to hearing about Nolan, or if Invincible is going to keep the Nolan aspect of all that to himself.
Like, hey, look, I have a little brother.
Yeah, that too. That's gonna be wicked. Plus, the kid's gonna rapidly age, so not super rapidly, but a slowed rate. But
he's gonna be like Mark's age in a couple years.
Yeah,
or at least the equivalent of Mark's age in a couple years.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Like, I have no idea. And yeah, basically this show has done so many curveballs into what could potentially happen. And what has happened. But pretty much we have no idea what could happen and just go along for this roller coaster ride of the show that it is.
Yeah. All right, so I want to thank the folks for watching with us here, and we will be back when Invincible comes back.
2024.
Until then, barring some technical difficulties, we might have some anniversary stuff coming at you this week, and as well as memoirs soon enough. Phineas and Ferb, the usual.
Back to Fridays.
Yeah, back to Fridays on Phineas and Ferb. So, a lot to look forward to there.
All right.
All right, so I guess we'll shout out Tiki in the comments, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, but he was here in text.
Yep.
All right, folks. That does it until now. Let's wish Mark the best. He's certainly going to have a lot on his plate next year, and we can't wait to see it because, as we all know, Mark Grayson is Invincible.
Insert blood splatter here.
And cracking background.
That too.